friends, welcome back to Food Prep Guide. It is February already, and I am having a hard time believing that spring is going to be here before we know it. And it is time to, it's go time in the garden for many of us. So today I want to give you a top 10, yes, top 10, I've got it written down right here, my personal to-do list of things to do in February in the garden. Now this video is going to be mostly helpful to those of you who are in US zones 6 through 10. If you're kind of in those lower zones of 6 and 7, you're going to want to do these towards the end of February. If you're in those upper zones of 8, 9, and 10, you'll want to do this list kind of in the earlier February, like right around now, within the next couple weeks. If you are in the southern hemisphere, from what I understand, my to-do list in February would be your to-do list in August. So just take that for what it's worth. I always recommend doing your own research. But when it comes to gardening, there are some tasks that are pretty much across the board. There's going to be differences, of course, in what you are growing, but I know many of you have the same goals that I do of growing our pantry staples, of filling our pantry with home preserved foods. And so I wanted to go ahead and share my to-do list of what I need to get done in February in case it is helpful to you. Again, zones 6 through 10 is going to be most helpful. Let's get started. If you would like help planning a productive garden, scroll down to the description box of this video and click this link for a free garden printable. We calculated quantities for a year's supply of the most common garden vegetables and organized them into a neat chart to help you plan. We'll send it straight to your inbox. If you're new here, we invite you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming tutorials on gardening and food preservation, food storage, and more. Okay, number one is seed starting. It doesn't seem like we should be starting seeds this far in advance, especially if we're not even going to be putting out seedlings until the end of April, beginning of May, but now is the time because so many of our crops can go into the ground pretty early. Our cold-loving crops like your kales, your brassicas, your lettuces, and all of that. But then our heat-loving crops, our tomatoes, our peppers, those types of things, need to be started around 8 weeks before your projected last frost date. So now in February is generally the time that you want to be starting your seeds. Of course, you can go to the store and buy seedlings instead. If you are brand new to gardening, that is an excellent way to start out. But if you're looking to save some money, growing from seed is the way to go. So there are so many different ways to start seeds. I'm not going to go into all of those different ways. I just want to note that, hey, to-do list, now's the time to go ahead and start your seeds. We use the winter sowing method. I already have my first round of milk jugs out in the garden. I took care of that this weekend. I need to do a second round of winter sowing for my heat-loving crops, which I will probably do either next weekend or the weekend after that, Lord willing. But now is the time to get those seeds going. Number two, ordering your onion starts. Now is the time to get those onion orders in. A lot of times when you wait until early March, your favorite varieties are going to be sold out because your favorite varieties are likely other people's favorite varieties, and experienced gardeners know to get their orders in early. I order from Dixondale Farms every year. They are fantastic. I won't order from anywhere else unless I find someone local, but until that happens, I'm ordering from Dixondale Farms. They are just fantastic. They ship quickly. You can put in your date, like you can go ahead and let's say you don't need them until the 1st of March, but you don't want to risk not being able to order them because they're sold out. You can go ahead and place your order now and then set your ship date for whatever date you want them to ship, and they will ship out to you. I do recommend using onion starts or onion seedlings, same thing, two different names. And not the bulbs that you can get at like your local garden center or hardware store, because they're not going to produce that big bulb that you want if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for more like scallions, like green onion type things, then by all means use those bulbs at the grocery store. But you're going to get bigger, better onions by using onion starts or onion seedlings. And you can absolutely start onion from seed as well. I know several people have had great results from that. I've seen lots of YouTube videos here on YouTube for growing onion from seeds. I have not started that yet. I just appreciate Dixondale Farms taking care, letting the pros take care of that for me for this particular crop. but now is the time to get your onions in. And for many of us, they actually go into the ground the end of February. So it's actually ordering time and planting time depending on your specific zone. Number 3 is to prep your potatoes. Again, similar to the onions, depending on what particular zone you are in, your potatoes might need to go into the ground around February 14th to the end of February. In my area, zone 7B, which actually with the new USDA zone map changes, I'm actually in zone 8 now. I'm not really paying attention to that too much. That's a topic for another time. I think we'll probably do a video on that. But I am going to be going ahead and putting my potatoes in the ground the same time I always have, and that is around Valentine's Day. So that means that in the beginning of February, I need to go ahead and get my potatoes so that I can be sprouting them and prepping them for going into the ground and getting a slight head start on the potato growing season. Now, in years past, I have purchased grocery store potatoes and just sprouted those and used those as my seed potatoes. But this year I could not find, we love Yukon Gold. We love growing Yukon Gold potatoes, and I couldn't find organic Yukon Gold potatoes in my area for a decent price. I did find them, but I had to pay an arm and a leg for them, and I wasn't going to do that. The thing with growing grocery store potatoes is that you do need to buy organic, because the non-organic are sprayed with a sprout inhibitor chemical that makes them not want to sprout, and we need them to sprout. But because I think it was that organic label, the price has just skyrocketed. So I looked around, and I was so blessed to find a local farm store who was selling 50-pound bulk certified seed potatoes for $35, and I am just blown away. I wrote that down on my blessings list to just help me remember. I love writing down blessings from the Lord and being able to look back and see just how He has been kind to me and merciful and loving. And one of those things this year was being able to find 50 pounds of Yukon Gold certified seed potatoes for $35. I just was blown away. That might be a normal price for y'all, but it is not something that I have ever been able to find here in my area, especially being Yukon Gold. I feel like that was such a gift, and I'm just so blessed. So now I've already ordered those. So this year I'm actually using certified seed potatoes for the first time on a larger scale, but I still need to sprout them just like I would grocery store potatoes. Now, I guess I shouldn't say need, I should say want. I still want to sprout them. You don't absolutely have to. You can absolutely take that potato and put it straight in the ground and it will grow. But I want to get maximum yields out of the seed potatoes that I put into the ground. So that means I want to sprout them first, so that I can then cut them so that each chunk of potato has at least one eye, one sprouted eye on it, and then that one seed potato can then suddenly turn into 3 or 4 potato plants versus only 1 potato plant. I might do a side-by-side experiment this year where I do whole potatoes versus the cut up potatoes, but we'll see. But now is the time to get those potatoes sprouting. We are going to be doing a video all on sprouting your potatoes, and I'll be sure to link that in the description box below so that you can go and check out how to sprout your potatoes. But just know, if you're in zone 6 through 10ish, but do your own research, because I think 10, y'all might need to stick to fall for potatoes, and you might even not be able to grow potatoes in zone 10. I'm not even sure, but do your own research for sure. But for most of us in zones 6 through at least 9, maybe 10, now is the time to gather your potatoes and start the sprouting process. Okay, number 4, prep your beds. If you didn't prep your garden beds in the fall before winter, then now is the time to do that. Normally, I will prep my garden. When I say prep my garden beds, I mean get them amended for whatever is going to be planting in that particular location. Normally I do this in the fall, but since we are switching to woven ground cover weed fabric this year, I knew that was going to change where I was going to be planting things, and I just wasn't on the ball enough to be able to have everything mapped out exactly where I wanted it to go back in November. So I just left it. I covered the ground. I used the chop and drop method in the fall when I'm putting my garden to bed. Instead of uprooting plants, I will take scissors or pruners and cut the plant at the base where it meets the soil level. allow those roots to stay in the ground, lay that dying plant on the ground and use it as weed cover, and the rain and the snow and all of that will over time help those plants to start breaking down and start feeding that soil over the winter. So that's all I got done this year, which I'm fine with that, but I still need to amend my garden beds, and I need to do that around now. Basically, the rule of thumb is to, if you don't do it in the fall, is to amend your soil as soon as your ground thaws. That's going to be different depending on where you live. For many of us, that's going to be somewhere towards the end of February, maybe even middle of February. Our ground is already thawed. We do have one more frost coming, but it's only going to be 1 to 2 days, and then it's going to be right back up into the 40s and 50s again. So when your soil thaws, that's going to be the time to amend your soil. There are so many different ways that you can amend your soil, and I'm not even going to be able to go through all of those types of details, but I do highly recommend garden planning so that you can know what is going in that location, and you can amend that location with the amendments that that plant needs. That's how you're going to save money versus amending an entire square foot area of garden with, it's going to, a lot of cost goes into that when you're amending a large area. But if you can concentrate it and pair amendments with plants, you can save money and be more efficient with your gardening space and your garden planning. So I highly recommend that. That's what I'm going to be doing this year. We are switching to 50-foot rows now that we're using the weed fabric, so I have a lot of amending to do soon within the next few weeks. Okay, number 5, fruit trees. Pruning your fruit trees. If you have any deciduous fruit trees, figs, let's see, peaches, lots of different ones. If you have any of those, it's time to prune your trees before it starts warming up. So you want to generally wait until, I think it's you don't have to wait until your last frost. In fact, you should do it before your last frost. But you also don't want to do it at the very beginning of winter either. It's going to be towards the end of winter, but before that last frost is kind of that time frame for pruning your fruit trees. And the reason why is because you want to do your pruning while they're still dormant, before they start putting out those first green leaves. And we are here in zone 7B, technically 8, I guess now with the changes. But if we have what feels like we go straight from winter to summer, our spring feels very short. I know there are many growing zones that are like that, and if you wait too long, those temperatures can get up into like the 55 or 60s, and they can put out some green buds quicker than you think. So you want to go ahead and get your pruning done while it's still pretty chilly outside, right around the month of February. Okay, number 6. It's carrot planting time. I can't believe it. I haven't even amended my carrot bed yet. So that is top priority for me. This coming weekend, I plan on amending my carrot bed, getting it cleaned out, getting all the bone meal and stuff in it, some peat moss, maybe a little bit of manure, not too much manure, mostly bone meal. Bone meal needs, or root crops need the potassium or phosphorus that is in that bone meal. There's some other options for adding that phosphorus, but root crops need phosphorus. If you have struggled growing carrots in the past, you may not have had enough phosphorus in your soil. So look into that. But I need to amend my beds, but not just amend, I need to go ahead and plant carrots. So if you are in zone 7 through 10-ish, 6 through 10-ish, it might be time to be putting those carrots in the ground. They love cool weather. They do not like hot weather. So like I said, we go from winter to summer, it feels like. So I need to be getting carrots in the ground really fast. So month of February is carrot planting month for many of us. Number 7, it's time to plant our lettuce greens. If you live in an area that has several more very harsh frost ahead of you, then you're gonna want to use frost cover if you choose to plant your greens right now. But if you just have a very light frost, you can get away with just a very thin layer of mulch over your salad greens. Not a heavy mulch. I'm not talking wood chips. I'm talking like a leaf mulch, or just draping a blanket or a sheet even over those lettuce greens if you have a light frost coming like we do. But still, it is still the time to get them in the ground when the soil has thawed, but it's still cool, because as you probably know, if you're a gardener, they bolt quickly in the heat. So the month of February is typically the time that you want to get your greens, your lettuces, all of that in the ground. Kale, spinach, all of that. Number 8. Now is the time to order and then plant your berries, your blueberries and your strawberries, and probably some other berries. But blueberries and strawberries are on the top of my mind because that's what we're putting in our garden this year. We are new to blueberries. We have tried strawberries in the past unsuccessfully, so we're trying again this year. A different way. We're using that weed fabric, and we're putting the blueberries in some composted wood chip mulch, which I'm excited about experimenting with. But now is the time to get those ordered. And if you haven't ordered them already and it's something that you want in your garden, I do highly recommend that that happens sooner rather than later, because varieties are selling out fast. I've already experienced that myself. Be sure to research the blueberries that are particular to your particular area. Strawberries too, but from what I understand, blueberries are a little more finicky about weather conditions than strawberries are, and you don't want to set yourself up for failure by growing the wrong variety that is just not going to thrive in your area. But if you're growing those this year, I highly recommend to get your orders in within the next 2 weeks because they are going fast. Number 9. If you haven't ordered seeds yet, get those seed orders in. Again, they are going fast. I generally put my seed orders in December. I kind of use it as like a Christmas gift to myself. It's something that I love doing in the winter time when it's dreary and cold outside and I can't be outside. At least I can dream about the garden and pick out my seeds. So that's usually something I do in December. I do have 2 or 3 varieties that I need to pick up, and I need to get that done very soon. If you haven't ordered your seeds, now is the time to get them. It's not too late, but it's almost too late for those special varieties. If you've had your eye on them, you know other people are wanting them too. They're selling out fast. So go ahead and get your seed orders in quickly. Last but not least, number 10, if you have not mapped out your garden plan yet, go ahead and get that done in the month of February, because spring is going to be right next door and coming faster than you can imagine. It'll be here before we know it, and a garden plan will help you know how to amend your soil before those plants have to go into the soil. Of course, we want to amend our soil before we plant. We can fertilize and all of that after we plant, but ideally we want to get those garden beds prepped. And it's hard to prep your garden beds if you don't know what's going to go in them. Of course, you can certainly do just a huge square block of soil, but then you're going to have to amend it, just streamline it and amend all of it no matter what you're putting there. And I have gotten the best results by pairing specific amendments with those plants. I think we've already talked about that, so I won't go into that too much more. But if you haven't mapped out your garden plan, now is the time to do it. I hope that was helpful to y'all. Speaking of garden plans, we have a whole video on the 2024 garden layout of our garden this year. I drew it out on paper, took you all through it. I will link that on the page on the screen right around here. Go check that out if you're interested. I hope that was helpful to y'all. We'll see you next time. Bye.